All right, hello everyone. My name is Shawn Conley. I'm the State Soybean and Small Grain Specialist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm out here with Pat Mullooly with the Wisconsin Soybean Marketing Board. Pat, thank you very much for having this time to sit down with us.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
When we first got here, Pat, you kind of gave me a quick history of the farm, and I thought it was pretty cool. Could you share with us?
Yep, so I'm sixth generation here. We're in Clinton, Wisconsin, eastern Rock County. Walworth County is just across the road. But my ancestors came here from Ireland in 1861. And then we've farmed, my family's been here. It was a dairy farm. We got some beef cows now, but mostly cash grain. Implemented no-till, strip tillage. Late 90s, early 2000s, we converted everything. As a kid out here, I spent a lot of my time in my teenage years, one, picking up rocks, two, working in washouts. And I think in the late 90s, I told my dad, I said, I think it's time we look to buy a no-till drill, and we need to stop tilling this farm. And kind of where we're sitting was my grandma's house, and she was here in the farm. And I went to no-till beans in the standing corn stalks, and my grandma stood in the kitchen window. He says, "What is that boy doing?" And she didn't talk to me for a couple weeks. And I didn't know the story till after the fact, but I think she caught on to we were trying to make it better and made it work, made it through. There was a lot of trials and tribulations of learning that. Converted to strip till now. That heavy soils here, getting things warmed up. Our soybean specialist says we got to plant early, so cold, wet soils sometimes doesn't work in straight no-tills. So.
Yeah, sometimes these state specialists are a little loopy on what they're thinking about, so
They
are challenging. I get that. When did you really start thinking about introducing cover crops?
I don't know exactly, but probably 15 years ago.
So what do you think have been the biggest results?
Soil health, and we have a farm around the corner that we started farming in 2012, but it was farmed hard and the soils were not healthy, and we struggled to get good yields. We planted that field to wheat, and it came back with an oat cover, straight oats. We did harvest that for feed. Since that point, again, 2012 on, we have had cover crops on that. Not every year, but most years we have some type of cereal rye or something growing. That's one of our most productive farms today.
Wow.
And it's clay soil, and it's a big hilltop, and it's just amazing what that little piece of dirt will do. And I attribute it to that cover crop and managing that way.
So in terms of your cover crops, are you kind of just leaning more into the cereal rye, or do you have any mixtures or blends?
We have worked with mixtures. The cereal rye is the main one. I always say too, we're just far enough north that we don't have enough growing time for some of the legumes and the mixtures. When we're predominantly corn and soybeans. Behind the wheat stubble is where we'll get into the mixtures. We've worked with the peas and oats, add buckwheat in there, tillage radishes. So I've dabbled in other ways to put the cover crop seed. We broadcast it ahead of the strip till, and I've tried to maybe move that out of the row so you have the clean strip, but then we pushed all that seed in between the rows. So okay. And we've let that go and planted green. We're dabbling in that. Sometimes it works pretty well. Other times you're getting some of that rye in that strip.
So when you're out there broadcasting, are you just out there with a fertilizer spreader? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Like, do you just mix it in with your fall, fertilizer blends?
We have done that. There's, I know some of the fertilizer dealerships around, they will do that, but you contaminate everything, right? Yeah. So you're spreading it into if you go to the next field, you didn't want rye out there. That's another management step for people handling that, is you have all your tendering equipment full of seed then if you mix it with a fertilizer. So something to be aware of.
So when you are doing, after corn stalks, cereal rye, what's your general operation? Do you plant green? Do you terminate after 2 weeks after, or is it just depending on the year?
It kind of depends. We are predominantly non-GMO food-grade soybeans. Because of that, we're terminating before we plant.
Okay.
We've had issues. We've tried in GMO or Enlist or Extend here the last few years that we've planted green before, and with that, we've had mixed results in killing that, because sometimes when you run it over, you disturb it and it doesn't uptake the herbicide. As soon as we get that 60+ degree day with the sun out, we're starting our burn downs and get our rye killed, okay, and get our residual on with that. And we will take specific farms that maybe we feel need a little help with soil health, and we'll say, okay, let that rye grow. We're going to plant that last, and even if we have to park the planter for a few days, we'll take that farm, let that rye grow up.
Have you had to make any specific changes to your planter, your equipment set up in the spring?
Nothing out of the ordinary. The challenges come, again, you put that cover crop out there to conserve moisture, and yeah, it's going to be moist under there. There's no way around it. So being a little bit patient to make sure it's dry enough that we're getting that seed trench to close up.
So if you had any advice to give to growers that are just starting, getting started with cover crops, or
I think utilize the programs, right? You have to, because it's a cost, it's more management, so you need that help to dabble in it, and don't be afraid of it. There are benefits, and we've seen it. We have that field around the corner here that is our poster child, so to speak, that just gotten that much better. And don't give up on it. Don't try it 1 year, because you will fail. It will cause issues. You might have a poor stand, or it sucked moisture early or something, but give it a try, but stick with it. Give it 3 or 4 years and figure your system out and your cocktail or whatever works for you.
Excellent. I think, when you're kind of looking at, your farming operation, what are you the most proud of on your farm?
Well, longevity, obviously. I think we're one of maybe the longest one in our township that's actively farming. But again, the conservation, like we're trying to improve and do our part to make it better. And the yields that we can pull off this farm, my grandfather would fall over probably to say that we're pulling the yields off and we're able to do this and sustain a crop.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for your time today, Pat. I really appreciate it. And we're getting about ready to go into 2025 harvest. So have a happy, safe, and productive harvest.
Thank you much.